closer. Don't be shy. Get a little closer. Don't be shy.
Yeah.
What was that sound?
Yeah, I don't know. I heard that too. I don't think I stepped on anything. Podcat is still outside. But yeah, we're just talking about Tina Turner, the legend. I was thinking her lines in Mad Max are timeless. That performance was so good.
We don't need another hero.
We don't need another hero. The song made it. That's spin the wheel. That's the deal. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. I mean, I still use 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. I don't know what that says about me.
I mean, it's a solid, statement.
Yeah.
It's a solid set of ground rules.
Well, how did you feel about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome?
I didn't love it at the time.
I want to rewatch
it. It has grown on me. It's no Mad Max 2.
That's the Road Warrior. Yeah, that's hard to top. That's super hard to top. But think about this. Thunderdome. Not only was it lifted by WWE, I mean, a lot of people like when it gets real, you're going to the Thunderdome. Like a lot of the lexicon really has stood the test of time.
Yeah, it's been adopted into the lexicon.
Yeah. So,
it's got its own meaning. When someone says Thunderdome, you know what they mean.
Right. Did she have any other big...
It also was a very famous pop culture moment when they redid it as the Tupac video.
Yes, that's right. Oh, man.
It's more influential than we think, I think.
And all I remember about it is it just had a Temple of Doom. I remember a lot of kids being freed. Didn't he save kids?
In Temple of Doom?
No, in Temple of Doom, right? They freed those slaves.
Oh, right.
But
no,
also,
in Thunderdome, spoiler alert, if you folks haven't seen it, it's where the kids have that old plane.
Yes, that's it.
They were in a plane crash.
That's right.
And Mad Max has to resurrect the plane.
That's right. So she was in... So, on IMDB, it has a known for section. So clearly, Beyond Thunderdome is at the top. What's up, Tubes? But she's also known for The Last Action Hero.
Tina Turner was in Last Action Hero?
Yeah, it says she played the mayor. I told them to go see the mayor.
I don't remember that, but it's not surprising.
And then the jump goes way back to 1978. She was in Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band, and she was in Tommy.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean the musical ones.
I didn't know that.
It seemed like for a while, was Cher the first? No, Elvis. Clearly, Elvis was the first musician that crossed over into movies. But was Cher the first female that did it?
I don't know.
Because
I feel like there was always singers that went on to do movies, like since they invented movies. No.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I think
anybody who could sing, someone thought, well, let's film that then. Right?
But I meant like really like good standout performances, not like in that thing you do with the Shrimp Shack Shooters, where you just put them back in there.
What? You bring that movie up a lot. I've never seen it.
What?
I've never seen that.
You never seen that thing you do?
No.
I Am Spartacus? Mm-mm. It is sleepy good. Tom Hanks' directorial debut is going to knock your socks off.
I have not seen. I guess I'll catch it.
I really do enjoy it. But going through her IMDb, it's nothing but music related stuff, except Tommy, Laughing, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band, and then Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I guess that's all for music videos too, but I don't know. I think of like now thinking of Mad Max as the trilogy, because I don't feel like there's a lot of people that saw the first Mad Max.
Not till after part 2.
Yeah, and then it got released here as the Road Warrior, so people didn't even know that it was a sequel. Right at the time, and I don't really
even though it was far superior.
The second one.
The Road Warrior.
Yeah.
Mad Max 2.
So
my Blu-ray always said Mad Max 2. It never says the Road Warrior anywhere in the movie.
It never does?
No.
Really?
It only says it on the box. It doesn't say it in the movie.
Man, I didn't know that.
I don't know if it ever had that title officially.
That was just that was the theatrical release too, where Mad Max was not, right? Or if it was in art houses or limited.
No, it got released. I mean, they used to release everything in the theaters back in the day when there was no other option. It's like, what else are you going to do with it?
Right.
You're not just going to send it to the local TV station to play. You'll send it to movie theaters, wherever they are, all over the world.
Oh, man. Speaking of that, Have you ever had a movie that you've seen and you just remember flashes of it and you have no idea what it is? And you've never
From time to time.
I still have one to this day that I can't trace back. And it was Australian is what made me think of this, but it was a teacher who was trying to save these students. And there was a bunch of, I don't know if they were kidnappers or murderers, but they were all wearing animal masks. And I just remember her like being a really good swimmer and swimming and hiding with the students underneath a cave. And she was trying to convince them how to go on there. And it's one of the things that if we ever meet Quentin Tarantino in a conversational sense, I'm going to ask him. Because I like IMDB hasn't told me. I can't find it anywhere.
You can't figure out what this movie is.
I can't figure it out anywhere. But I feel like if I describe it, he'll get it.
That's interesting. Yeah, maybe you will.
And
You should write that as a letter into Video Archives.
Yeah, I know.
That's a solid letter.
I need to gather my thoughts on the movie. Like, what is this movie? And funny enough, I saw him do this gimmick on one of the late night talk shows where they were reading generic boxes. And he, on the third box, he read it and he got the answer. And they're like, no, that's not right. And he's like, you sure that really sounded right? And then they like went and researched it. And it turns out he was right. And he found the original title, not the new title that they were reading from the box.
Wow.
As that's when I knew that this man, Quentin Tarantino, is human IMDb.
He's IMDb before IMDb existed.
He is.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get it when well, we're already in it. We're already in the Quentin Tarantino water. But listening to that podcast, I realized that he is what a lot of sports fans are with like statistics. Like, did you ever have your uncle that's like, Mickey Mantle stole this many bases and that he's that, but for films.
Yeah.
Because he'll rattle off like the actors and not like the known actors, like the obscure actors. Like he knows they're like, oh yeah, and they were in this and they were not that good. And I like that you can never take a review from him personally. I don't think he would ever hold it against you if he didn't like you, but you had a good performance, or vice versa. I think he just calls it straight. Like you can say you sucked in that, but you were great in that.
Yeah, because he is the original sort of this is the thing that folks tried to emulate after him, was that he was the original video store clerk turned filmmaker. Like he was the one, right?
Yeah.
He was the one that lived that dream of folks. After that happened, people just went to go work at video stores. They would just go get jobs. They quit their Wall Street jobs and they went to go work at Blockbuster so they could become Quentin Tarantino, because it's like, I didn't realize this was a way to do it. And yeah, I forgot the point of what we were talking about before.
Oh no, he was human IMDb.
Yeah. I think it stems from the fact that he's from that generation where, and I don't know if kids today, the kids watching will understand this. There was a time when you couldn't just like find out every piece of information about a movie that you wanted to instantly on your phone in seconds.
No.
It was like you had to seek information out. So there was magazines, there was news articles. You'd want to get a magazine that had an article about a movie that you had heard of, like the trades. You had to go to the trades. Oh, this is getting made. And like you wouldn't hear about it for a year or two, because that's how long it takes to make a movie. It's, oh, that's that thing I heard about years ago. I used to get on this thing where you could look up things that were getting made and that were crewing and casting, and you'd see them where they're shooting. But there was limited info. Yeah. So he absorbed it all in, anything he could. You
had to be well read, and he was well read. Like he read everything he can get his hands on film wise. I remember those little blurbs that were in the like lifestyle section of the newspaper, like when you had to look up movie times in the newspaper, you'd get these little articles sometimes in there, like, here's the rumors of sequels that are coming out soon.
Yeah.
And talk about fake news. I remember I was promised an E.T. Part 2 and an Officer and Gentleman Part 2 and got neither. And those two stick in my mind of reading that in the newspaper. But, I mean,
That would have been great. An officer and gentlemen.
Plural. Oh man, because those two competing? That was the same year, right? Was that
I don't know if
82?
that's the same year.
It might have been the same year, but yeah, I mean, now we see that all the time. But back then, you trusted journalists and you just assumed that it would be right. But now you'll get BS sequel stuff, and you're like, your source.
No, it gets called out immediately because everyone has their own sources.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no, that's not true. So you can't just throw this out and hope that somebody reads it. But yeah, going back to Quentin, we'll dive into it. The Video Archives podcast this week, Kayfabe, is one, like you called it. You said it's 100% kayfabe. And I guess, I don't know if we need to do the definition of kayfabe here.
You do the definition of kayfabe for the folks.
So it's bad when you're trying to explain a wrestling term using wrestling terms. I was like, it's when sell something. But yeah, you just go through and you just perform. You just go about like something is true, even if it's not true. But you just go about like it's true. And when they were going through, when you first texted me, Rick Dalton died, I was just like, I was thinking about it, and I was just like, well, I know Rick Dalton from the movie, but I was just like, and then I was like, is there a Rick Dalton, like somebody else that I don't know about? And then the snowball started building, and I started seeing the tweets, and I was like, oh no, it is Rick Dalton, because I said he survived by his wife, Francesca, who they managed to stay together, and they were living in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So this whole podcast,
they stayed together. Cliff gave him 6 months.
Yeah, that's right. And they did it, and he died, and he was in his 90s. But like, before we start going into the kayfabe of it, like, what do you think Quentin Tarantino's up to with this?
I think I know exactly what it is, honestly. Because as soon as it started happening, I started Googling and researching are now the same thing. I started looking up as much as I could about it. No, he wrote actually an entire Rick Dalton book. He has an entire Rick Dalton book that he has written, which is like a kayfabe book going through the history of his career, everything he was ever in. And I think he's building. I don't know how he arrived at the point where Rick Dalton. This was the day Rick Dalton died. He must have written it in the book a long time ago and just been like, "Oh wait, we've gotten there. Rick Dalton died today."
Oh my God.
So I've heard that it may or may not get released, or he might put it out. But he has an entire Rick Dalton book, and I think for that podcast, they were pulling from that book.
That's what it was, because they were no-selling everything, and then Gala and Roger Avery were part of it too. And he's going to go through, right? Because he's like the ultimate showman too. Like, he's so passionate about his stuff, and he'll just go through. But they were going through, and they were coming up with some stuff. He's like, oh, I remember him in that show. And then they were kind of confusing you because they were mixing real actors up with like worked actors, and like Vic Morrow's in that, and Darren McGavin's in that, and I'm like, wait, they're talking about real actors now, but in worked projects. And no selling it at all. Like,
he's created this whole alternate universe. He's got his own MCU, the Tarantino MCU, where he's spun off of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It has this alternate Hollywood history with Rick Dalton in it.
It's fantastic, and like you said, you can't stop listening to it. But it is cool, and you're the one that told me about, or he told a story, and then you relayed the story to me, that there's two universes, and there's a Tarantino in real life universe, and then those in real life characters watch the Tarantino film universe that are in there.
Exactly.
That's so complex.
So Kill Bill is in the Tarantino movie universe. So all the characters in the Tarantino movies watch Kill Bill. They watch Death Proof. The guys in Reservoir Dogs watch Kill Bill. If that makes the guys in Pulp Fiction watch Death Proof, and they probably watch. I feel like they watched Django, but Hateful Eight is real.
so that actually happened.
Django is a Tarantino verse movie where Hateful Eight is real.
I guess one is a little less extreme, right? Well, there was no. They didn't play with history, like real history. Is that because there was 2 movies that he played with real history? But did he play with real history too, a little bit?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I only say this because I think that Django is more of an action revenge story, whereas Hateful Eight is a bunch of people just sitting in a house. That just seems more realistic.
Yeah, you might be right. That's a really good way to put it. But so you started doing a little bit of research. You didn't check out any of the other real stuff that he talked about. Did they drop any real projects in there? I know they dropped in real actors, but were there real films? Like he was talking about Steve McQueen and he was talking about Burt Reynolds.
I don't know how much of it is real. I feel like they're just spinning Rick Dalton into real projects, though.
You need to listen to this because it is an incredible piece of entertainment. Because you never during this whole show, do you ever see the seams? I don't see the seams yet, and I was looking for the seams because you told me it's kayfabe. So as soon as you said okay, it's kayfabe, you got to try to find the seams. I can't find the seams.
No, it's pretty good. It's pretty solid. Maybe you catch a little bit of extra laughter here and there that maybe you wouldn't normally be there. But no, it's solid.
And what about the interview that interview that Quentin Tarantino conducted with Rick Dalton back in 1991? But then he did it. And I was like, okay, so how far are they going to go with it? Are they going to get an actor's voice, but it just had Quentin reenacting the interview?
Right.
So that would have been probably the only thing that kind of threw me a little bit. But I'm sure Leonardo's pretty busy that he couldn't come back and just like, hey, we need you to do this in an older voice.
You can't text Leonardo DiCaprio, come be on my podcast. It's rare. It's rare.
Yeah, that is rare air. I just I lost what I was gonna say. That's better. But no, I was going to just say that it was just when you're writing, and you've written scripts and we've written scripts together and apart. He just goes so far with his writing. Like it almost is like it really is coming from another universe.
I mean, like in the details of the characters?
Yeah, because he's not even, it sounds like he writes complete backstories and side stories and side universe stories for the characters before he even gets to the script.
Yeah. With
all the scripts that you've ever written, have you done that? Like, have you written?
I don't have I don't want to say the patience, but I just don't have the follow through to do that. I can see how that's so great. But like I think Quentin though, he's a writer, right? He's a writer who directs.
Yeah.
After he's done directing, he's still going to write. So it's like he's never been the director for hire.
No, no way.
So I think that because he's a writer, he just goes off on tangents and it's like builds this and builds that. I see a lot of potential in that though, and I don't know if he's planning this. And if he's not, you should tag him in this. Tag Video Archives. I feel like he's building out his own Tarantino verse now. For the future, because going into the podcast, whatever, we'll jump around back and forth. There's lots of parts of it that I like. I love when they're talking about the firemen because I really want to see the firemen.
Yes, exactly. That was another one. So good.
I want to see the firemen, and like it's so dope that like Cliff ended up directing Fireman 2 and 3. He became a director because I just listened to the book again. I re-listened to it again.
Oh, the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
The Once Upon a Time in Hollywood book. And between this and the book, it's funny how much they downplay the entire ending of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's always a throwaway line. It's just like, oh, some hippies broke into their house and they had to kill him and just blow past it.
And that was it.
Yeah. Whereas like in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's just, the huge finish of the movie.
It's the main event.
Yeah.
It is 100% the main event.
But it's just so imagine a universe where maybe Quentin writes the fireman scripts and books somebody to direct those scripts, not him, but he books his Cliff Booth to go ahead and direct them. Can you imagine that?
That would be
Like, I think that he understands things so well. That's why his career has gone so great. He's never fallen into the Hollywood traps.
no.
The worst he ever did was Death Proof, which was just a commercial failure. He had one commercial failure, you know? He had one thing go sour. And it wasn't even a bad movie. It was just bad marketing.
That was way bad marketing. It had nothing to do with the film at all. He should
So-
die on that hill.
He understands things so well about how Hollywood works. He was such a fan that he's just never, misstepped.
You know, I was listening to another YouTube short talking about George Lucas, and you know, people forget how much of a maverick he really was, right? Because everyone just thinks, you know, the whole Star Wars merchandising, but the whole reason he was basically explaining why every other space knockoff and even the Disney Star Wars movies failed beyond him, because he's like, you don't understand. I had a story I wanted to tell. I wanted to create a new real life mythology. So I studied mythology. You know, he studied, you know, all the hero's journey, and he did all this. And he's like, and the last thing I wanted to do was have some studio come in and screw it up. So that's why I ended up just creating my own company, because he was a maverick. He's like, no, this is the story I had. And there's not that many directors in Hollywood history that are like that. But Quentin Tarantino, yeah, with a bullet, he shot to the top of that list. Like we talked about this many times. He gets a pass no matter what. Doesn't matter if it's the revisionist history or the language that he uses or anything. He gets a pass because it's Quentin Tarantino, and people are looking at it as art and not bullshit or commerce.
Well, he gets a lot of heat too, to be fair.
He does.
He gets plenty of heat, but he also knows how to circumvent the heat.
He navigates the heat, yeah.
And like, he takes these questions on directly, and he's not afraid. And it's just like, you know, you get the sense that if for some reason his Hollywood career tanked, he would go back to running a video store.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, he totally would.
It's just, and it would be fine. And he'd go back and talk to people about movies. But because he just was such a fan of Hollywood in general, he just never made the wrong choice. And he's making the right choice by retiring. It's true. All the great directors, maybe except for Scorsese, have fallen off and just, they end up becoming directors for hire. Their films just don't get any attention. They go to video. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's just going to go ahead and call it on his own career and go off and just write the stories about the movie, you know, write stories that he would like to see made, and other folks can make them for a while. And he can sort of even drive that. Again, like, I think, can you imagine? I'm super into The Fireman. I want to see what The Fireman is. I want to watch all three Firemen and just like write those scripts, produce them yourself, have someone else direct them, and it's just like you're building off of your own IP. It's great.
Did the new video archives? Oh yeah, the newsletter came. It is in there. So I was going to see if they actually talked about the firemen in there. That's in our Dose Incredibles email.
Oh, I get him too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd love to actually see what it's about. But I think he's going to go down as one of the most memorable movie directors of all time.
Oh, absolutely. He's already that.
Yeah, he's already that. You know, and as time goes on,
You know what I want to see? Write the script of 14 Fists of McCluskey and have someone make that. Like, he's all these things he owns. He can, like, he just understands the business so well. What he's doing is if he's moving in the direction to just have his Tarantino verse continue, but like just book it himself and not direct, it'd be great. 14 Fists of McCluskey, I want to see.
Yeah, what if? Yeah,
It occurred to me that that's 7 guys. I didn't realize that. I was thinking 14 initially. But it's 7 because each one has 2 fists.
2 fists. It's a great title. It is a great title. And I think you're right. I think he's creating he's expanding the Tarantino universe that you could literally, who wouldn't buy this brand? Like, he's a brand. I don't think he's even how he's creating this brand, but he's no different, like you said, than the Star Wars or MCU, but it's a very, very special brand in the sense that, like, you can't say, some corporation can't come and buy that and say, we're going to make this, and then you're going to make shit.
Exactly.
It won't work.
Yeah.
You have to have a special love for the art to make this work, to really respect it.
Yeah.
Or else it won't. Like, this is an art that we talk about it. We were talking about Marvel struggles and Star Wars struggles. They're not respecting their IP, and the IP is dying for it. This is, if you don't respect that IP will kill you. Like, Quentin Tarantino's like, if you try to do wrong by his stuff, it just won't work. The question is, does he have somebody like, we talk about Dave Filoni on here a lot anytime we're talking about Star Wars. And the reason Dave Filoni works so well is because he's a huge fan, and he sat at the learning tree of George Lucas. George Lucas being the Dusty Rhodes, teaching you everything he can, and he took everything to heart. And that's why you can give Dave Filoni a Star Wars project, and it's going to feel like George Lucas was a part of this. Does Quentin Tarantino have a Dave Filoni?
We don't know.
We don't know, right?
We don't know. I think we've never really gotten the sense that he does. He's always said his only one true collaborator was Sally Menke, right?
Yeah.
We don't know, but I think that that's something that is going to be explored now as he's moving into retirement.
And it just makes you wonder of, it almost has a little bit of a feel of Andy Kaufman. That It was just like so special and so unique that it really was hard to replicate or kind of like pay it forward correctly.
Yeah. And in himself, he's got two Tarantino universes that he occupies. It's like the movies he writes and that are directed by other people are different than the movies that he writes and directs himself.
Right.
Because I think the reason his films stand out because of the style that he brings to them. You take something he wrote, imagine Kill Bill and someone else directed it, right? And did it in their style. He does it he just does it in a very unique style, the way he visualizes things.
Yeah.
And they're always just like off kilter. He doesn't go the obvious route on anything.
No.
He's always option C.
And we talk about this when all the Pulp Fiction knockoffs came out, right? And there was some like Go was good. I mean, there was good movies, but there was none that could capture that option C that you're talking about, that very specific flavor, that spice that you just can't get right because it's one of one.
Right.
And that's what makes it so, like, as far as like, it's awesome to be a part and be around during this section of film. Like, it was just like, it's cool we're around when Quentin Tarantino, because we've heard the stories of like Alfred Hitchcock, right? That's the only comparison that I can think of that people still speak of to this day when they study directors. Even though, ironically, I don't think Quentin Tarantino is a fan of Alfred Hitchcock, right?
He doesn't like Alfred Hitchcock.
He doesn't like it, right? But
No.
But at the same time, like we were talking about earlier, he does respect methods and he respects performances, and he might not like, but he did, give credit where it's credit's due, but he doesn't like them. But is there any other director that you can kind of think of that we're still speaking about from so long ago that stood the test of time? And I'm talking like the average person. Like, of course there'll be more film. The deeper you get into film, like, yeah, you're going to know all these, it's like, yeah, I know Brian De Palma and stuff, but like the average person, is there anyone beyond Alfred Hitchcock?
Does the average person know Scorsese?
As time is going on, no. I don't think so. Like, I feel like for a while, yes. And I would even argue the same thing with the closest you can get to like Scorsese is Spielberg. Like I feel like he's the closest you get where people knew who he was.
Yeah, but I don't think people go to Spielberg movies and be like,
not like they
Spielberg
do
movie.
anymore. No,
Yeah.
like Scorsese, you're right. Like you can put the name above the title, and it's working. But Spielberg, he became more of a producer, is why I think people knew his name. But Hitchcock, he went to a Hitchcock movie. But yeah,
Well, he would do those trailers where he'd come out and like be himself, and introduce the film, right?
Yeah.
And be like, this film is so scary. It's if you die, it's not my fault. Sign this contract when you walk in. We're going to offer contracts to folks who walk in. If you die when you watch the movie, we're not liable. So just so you know, how many tickets did that sell?
Oh yeah, that's a lot of tickets. I guess you have to have a little bit of that showmanship. You know, and
Yeah.
Tarantino has that, and I do, and I don't want to call it showmanship in a way that sounds like it's disparaging, like he's working a gimmick. I think no, that's just who he is.
It's a show, though.
Yeah,
The movies are a show.
the movies are a show, and
We're going to see a show, and there should be showmanship.
yeah, by everyone that's a part of it.
Yeah.
You know, that's why when you hear all the scumbag stories that come out of Hollywood, it's a shame because it's like, man, this is supposed to be the greatest industry in the world. How much fun can it be that you're telling these stories?
Yeah.
But I just think that, you know, in the future, people are going to try to study, replicate, and try to understand his mind. But there's nobody like it. Here's the real kicker. If you want to just go a little bit trippy, like I used to go a little bit. So this is a simulation, right? Now you have someone decides to play the avatar of Quentin Tarantino, who he is, the video clerk turned, you know, fantastic director that has all these universe of movies. And now that is another universe with itself that we currently exist in. So it's 3 layers deep.
Yeah.
With the Quentin Tarantino, like no other cinematic universe can say that if this is a simulation, my cinematic universe is 3 layers deep. All the rest are time is a flat circle. They're all one. Quentin Tarantino is 2 that we know of, 3 more than likely.
Right.
That's
so you've got like it'd be like you've got the fireman that's happening for real as a shoot, and it's like in what's that movie, the Christopher Nolan one?
Oh, Inception.
Inception.
Yeah.
It's like Inception, where you've got the fireman happening in one universe, and that's one reality.
Yes.
Outside of that universe, it jumps out to the guys from Reservoir Dogs in the warehouse watching the firemen on tape. Right? Mm-hmm. And then you jump out from that, and you've got a universe where Quentin Tarantino is writing Reservoir Dogs, right?
Yeah.
And then conducting the interview with Rick Dalton about the firemen.
Yeah, that's great.
It's like he's doing something cool.
He's doing something great.
And I think that I feel like this is going to be the future for him, where he can just like draw out on his IP.
And I'll be there for every single part of it.
Like I told you, I started Cinema Speculation, and first chapter is the bomb, and then it switches to the other voice. I'm just like, if it was Quentin read the whole thing, you could charge $100 for this.
Oh yeah, if they all of a sudden, even though we have the physical book and the audio, and they're like, we're doing an audio version, but it's going to cost 10x because we decided to get Quentin. I'd spend the 10x. I wouldn't ask for an update. I would just do it because there's everything about it. And talking about like the universes, like the 3 universes, what about that 4th untapped universe? Like there could be a Quentin Tarantino movie universe that exists in a non-physical realm right now that he just happens to have a straw into to suck all those juices out. And I'm not talking one of those little skinny metal straws. I'm talking about a McDonald's shake straw, you know, that's like that thick.
Yeah.
When you can just pull it through. And he just like, because everything about, if you try to come up with a word of everything he's doing, not only his films, but working the gimmick with this podcast, it's rich. Everything about it is rich. Somehow he's just tapping in. What happened with the stuff with Roger Avery. Do you remember? Like, I was trying to think about that because I thought for a while that they had some heat, and then but you can't tell now. Now that just sounds like the same guys that were working together.
Yeah, I think that was early career heat. I think, well, from what I know, parts of it had to do. Roger Avery was his collaborator at the beginning. When they're at the video archives. They had written Pulp Fiction together based on stories that they had come up with together. But when they were trying to book the movie, they wanted to book it as a Quentin Tarantino project, straight up. So they basically bought Roger Avery out of the project, of the screenwriting credit. So it could be written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. And obviously then it blew up, right?
Right.
And then there's True Romance was actually based on a script by Roger Avery, but then Quentin Tarantino completely rewrote it, and it ended up selling and becoming a hit. So it was early they had beef. It's like Success. Success happened.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all the shit that you used to joke about and talk about and ideas used to spin up together just mattered way more.
Yeah.
And I think they had heat, and they had to go their separate ways. Roger Avery, his early projects were getting tied to Tarantino, even though they weren't. So it was like, yeah, it just became one of those things. They said we need to go our separate ways.
Did you watch what was his first film, Killing Zoe?
Yeah, I remember it. I thought it was a Quentin Tarantino movie also at the time. That's what got me to rent it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So there was an entanglement that couldn't shake.
Yeah.
And we're all better for it because this is one of the best podcasts in a long time. Definitely one that you just you're excited when a podcast drops. I haven't had a feeling like that in a while.
That's the first podcast that I've been on this level of excitement to just every week consume.
Yeah,
it's great. It's just whatever. We get on here and talk about movies, and it's fun, and we enjoy it. It's listening to them or listening to Quentin talk about films. It feels like an education.
It does.
You know what I mean?
You're sitting at the learning tree.
He doesn't just say that he likes it or dislikes it. It's like the way he sort of justifies liking it or not liking it is an education.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a big fan. I think he's the defining director of our generation.
Oh yeah, hands down.
I don't know who's coming after him. I don't know.
I was thinking about that. I don't know because what I was trying to gauge it on is what film would I go see just based on the director's name being ahead of the title.
I think James Cameron is one.
Yeah,
James Cameron just because of his delivery record.
Yep.
It's you're not gonna. He hasn't had any duds. Paul Thomas Anderson is another one. That's sort of an event movie, but on a way lower scale. Spielberg, I don't think is one anymore.
No, he's not anymore.
I think Jordan Peele fell into that position.
He did. He's one that I go every movie now. So
he's only had 3, so he's still. I feel like he's still in iffy territory. I thought Nope was great. Us was the first half was good. And then, Get Out is one of the best movies of all time.
Yeah.
But he's still developing
very early
in that role. But he definitely is an event movie director. And it's crazy because it's like he was a sketch comedy actor who fell into this role,
Yeah.
But good management, good promotion, good marketing.
Hopefully, like you said, he needs to continue to replicate that.
Yeah.
What about, I'd possibly put Wes Anderson in there, right?
Wes Anderson, definitely.
Right.
I just got the Wes Anderson tickets for the Asteroid City.
Oh, you did get yours?
Yeah, I had to get them, even though I've got the Alamo membership. I had to go ahead and book some tickets because I wanted the lunchbox. They got the Asteroid City lunchboxes.
Wait, so when you buy the tickets, you can't. You buy the ticket to get the swag? Is that how it works?
Yeah, you got to buy the ticket to get the swag, and you can't use the membership until a week before your showing.
Right. Okay.
So Yeah, I just Alamo's doing swag again. I'm just like, I'm gonna go broke now because I got Indiana Jones tickets, and it's because they had glasses. I got the Indy glasses, and Asteroid City had lunch boxes. I was like, Luciolotti, do you want this Asteroid City lunchbox? And she says, yes, of course.
Yeah, that sounds what a perfect lunchbox.
Yeah.
For Asteroid City. Yeah, I'm excited to see that movie for sure. I'm looking forward to that. What about Christopher Nolan? I guess you can safely put him in there now. It used to not be the case, but I think it is now.
I think to a certain group, yes. To me, I've never been super over on Nolan. Dark Knight, I thought, was his pinnacle, if I'm honest. Everything since, to me, after Dark Knight has been mid from him.
Even though, so you put Inception in there. I would have put Inception as his pinnacle.
I don't. Inception is fine. I don't really. It's nothing I've ever felt the need to revisit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I do. That's one I do enjoy revisiting.
Like, it comes on TNT with the ads, I'll leave it on. But like, I don't. I don't know. I'm not the hugest fan of his big budget stuff he did after Batman.
Well, I feel like now all he does is IMAX. Like, he doesn't do. Like, I'd have to struggle to remember when he makes movies like Memento.
His movies are great. Like, from a technical standpoint, I got no heat with them at all, and I got no heat with them in general. It's just not my favorite.
I would put him almost in the same bucket when a James Cameron film now, like you were talking about.
Right.
You're going there, but those guys are swinging for the stratosphere.
Right.
They're not all of a sudden just going to make a little art house piece just to say they could.
They're like Master Kim, the Miami Connection guy.
Yeah, exactly.
They had big aspirations with their film.
Yeah, so everything, because I noticed when I was sitting in the trailer that we watched that's coming up for his new Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Do you realize that the biggest font when they're showing like the actor, the title, the biggest font in there is like shot on IMAX cameras was the biggest font. Bigger than his name, bigger than the title, bigger than the actors.
Yeah.
It was front and center, and it's just like, dude, is this guy, he's got to work for IMAX, right?
I mean, he's definitely getting the IMAX staff discount.
Yeah. But he's got to be like, they got to be throwing him some cash or something.
No doubt. It adds, I mean, they should. It gives them great publicity, and it adds a whole bunch to the budget. But it does look good. I think Nope looks really good in IMAX. It does add a lot. You get
It does.
It changes the scope. But yeah, I imagine IMAX is kicking him some percentages.
They have to, because him and James Cameron are definitely supporting
But
that.
James Cameron is just like, I shoot this on my own camera. I invented the camera. It's a ball pit. I shot this movie on a ball pit that everybody jumps into, and that's how I film it.
He would do the thing, the story of when you talked about aliens and he put the S and then he put the line
Dollar
through for
signs.
money. Yeah, the dollar sign. He would write IMAX and then he would just put a J in front of it. Jim Max, it's mine. But, we're talking about all these directors, and I still think they all pale in comparison to what Quentin Tarantino accomplishes. Because in the end, he's not interested in anything except connecting you with a story, connecting you with characters through story. He doesn't care, like, he preferable, right? He'll shoot it on film. He won't shoot it on. He's not interested in any kind of gimmicks. His gimmick is great stories and memorable characters. And I never bought into the whole thing of just like he lifts from other films. It's like, whatever. It's films that I never saw and I may never see. And now that he did it, I might go back and see it, and I never would have seen it before. So those homages that he does, I've never had any kind of heat, even if it's like a straight lift. I think that's great.
Well, I mean, he doesn't deny it. He admits, it's like, I lift from every movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I use it. That's what you do. That's what you do. You replicate the stuff you like. That's what you're doing when you're making your short film.
Yeah.
You're replicating something you saw in the past or something that connected with you, and you're trying to recapture that moment by making it yourself
and making it your own.
Yeah.
And he does. Like, I don't know if there's been some like straight up lifts. Like I've never seen like shot by. I've seen some of the videos that are like shot for shot that look like they're like straight up lifts.
Well, he lifts like little bits of style, little
Yeah.
bits of wardrobe and shots. You know what I mean? There's a lot of them in Kill Bill. That's probably the one that has the most.
Yeah.
You know. But again, it's not. It's just a. He's not trying to plagiarize it. He's just doing it like a rap sample. You know what I mean?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
He's just doing the exact thing that he liked from a movie, but because of who he is or the way he directs, it always comes through different.
It does.
You know?
It has a different lens on it.
Yeah.
And it really works so well. So how far do you think he's going to take this, going back to R.I.P. Rick Dalton?
I think we're gonna get the part 2 of the podcast. That's gonna be great. Hopefully, we'll see the Rick Dalton book.
You think a book is coming?
Yeah, I think. I mean, if it's a thing, why not? I imagine you'd have to have Leo participate because he's gonna have to come in and take photos that they can Photoshop into posters and scenes from movies and stuff like that.
Oh, some of my favorite posters are of Rick Dalton's movies that he shot in.
Yeah.
Those spaghetti westerns that he shot in Italy.
Yeah.
I would want those front and center.
Yeah. I wish I had gotten that original Once Upon a Time in Hollywood disc set when it came out, and then it had all the Italian movie posters.
Oh, I didn't even know they had that. I would have totally got that.
I ended up with this steel book that I bought recently just because it said it had 20 extra minutes of footage, but it was a work. It was like a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, I remember I thought you were supposed to go with me that day. I told you Alamo at the Ritz, that was the last movie I saw there, was Once Upon, and they gave you a little film reel.
Oh, right.
Right? So I still have that hanging. But yeah, he's always been, I still have the Hateful Eight, the book that you got during the film too.
Yeah.
They gave you that. That was cool. But so I wonder how far he can take this. I really think he's just, like you said, creating this universe. We might get a worked autobiography, like straight up autobiography. And then we still might get the Bounty Law show. That might still happen.
Yeah, he wrote all the episodes.
Right? That's what I mean, dude. It's just like, instead of just sitting down and writing Once Upon a Time, he wrote all this other stuff. He wrote a novel. He's writing backstories. He wrote episodes to a show that his character was in.
Yeah.
Like, how does he... It's a thick straw, brother. It's a thick straw, and he's writing, and he's got it right in the muse.
Yeah.
He's got it right in her ass, and he's just sucking. But I just don't ever feel like he just sits there and struggles to write. I could be wrong, and he could say, no, I do. I have these moments, and maybe it takes a long time, but it just feels like he can just, like, on the spot, tell you a movie that, and I'm like, that sounds like a good movie. Where can I get that? He's like, oh no, I just made that up. I feel like he can do that.
Yeah.
Did you ever go back and watch George Lucas's pre-documentary footage of preparing to make the prequel trilogy, The Phantom Menace and stuff, and how he would just kind of lumber up the stairs, and he would kind of like, he didn't feel like he was going to be all that into it. Where I feel like Tarantino would be like sprinting like a beautiful mind across a yard, just like to start writing, and it'll just come up with 50 pages. And we know it's not easy to come up, like they say, try to write 3 pages. And you would think that's an easy feat, but it's no easy feat. You really got to be in the zone.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's just, I guess my long-winded point is he's always in that zone. When is he not in that zone?
It's his job, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, part 2. So we recommend highly go and listen to The Day of the Dalton, part 1. And it's got The Marshal of Madrid and Manhunter are the movies that he was talking about in there. But on May 19th, 2023, actor Rick Dalton passed away peacefully in his home in Honolulu, Hawaii. He is survived by his wife, Francesca. Dalton was beloved by fans of Bounty Law, where he played bounty hunter Jake Cahill for 5 seasons, and also for his iconic role as a flamethrower-wielding vigilante in the Fireman series.
I love how, because of the whole flamethrower incident at the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, if you go off in the alternate history, that's what ended up revitalizing his career. He went on Johnny Carson to talk about it. You know, he started booking gigs. And of course, they did the Fireman. This is the base, you know, obvious.
Yeah.
And it was for Canon Films.
Was it for Canada?
It was for Canon Films, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know it was for Canon too. But his career spanned over 20 years. And on the podcast, I invite you to remember Rick Dalton. In this part 1, they discuss his most famous role, including standout TV performances in Cades County and Manhunter, and they hear experts of a Q&A conducted by Quentin in 1999 between him and Rick. That's the trip. That's the only time that, like, kayfabe was never shaky for me in that until, like, it was Tarantino just reading that part of the interview. But I get why he did it. You know, and again, like, with him talking, you can literally just listen all day.
Yeah.
But I kind of wished that they would have got just like, Leo, we'll throw you, like, what do you want? Like, we'll throw you a favor. Just come back and conduct this interview. Which I'm surprised he didn't do it, like, on set as an acting exercise. Why? Because they love making movies.
It's a podcast in this. But yeah. I see what you mean. Leo's busy, dude. He's the biggest actor in the world. He's got time to do podcasts.
And we're talking about that. He has a movie that's dropping, right? That is a Scorsese movie, right? The what is it called?
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Killers of the Flower Moon. That's it. I didn't really even know anything about it. The thing that's cool about Leo is I kind of put, and it's ironic that I think Brad Pitt got put in there too. I would say Brad Pitt maybe by a hair, but those two guys, to their credit, they very rarely pick bad scripts. Maybe Leo could have had some more questionable ones, but are there scripts that you can think of that those guys are in that you didn't, like, at least enjoy yourself a little bit? Probably Leo more than Brad, but
I mean, I think Leo's pretty solid. Brad Pitt, like World War Z, I wasn't really into. Yeah, I think Brad Pitt's had a little more commercial stuff in there. Leo's never really done that commercial action movie, unless you count Inception, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't think he would.
Brad Pitt did, like, you know, whatever, Mr. and Mrs. Smith and World War Z and things. The Mexican. He did things like that. I don't think Leo did stuff like that.
Well, isn't that the advice that he gives young actors? Stay off drugs, watch your money, and don't do superhero films. Is the 3 things that he always tells young actors. Yeah, that's a shoot. That's what he tells the young actors. Those 3 things.
Wow.
And I mean, he's standing the test of time, man. He's still going, right? When you talk about, are there really movie stars that are left? And that's a big thing for Quentin Tarantino. I think that's why he gravitates to him, because don't you feel like Leo still is like that movie star? Brad Pitt still is that movie star. They're not really interchangeable. You can never really see them in a Marvel film because they're stars.
Yeah,
you know, the characters are not stars. They're the stars.
Right, exactly.
So
you can't put them in a costume.
Yeah. So, but now we exist in a universe where we get Leonardo DiCaprio and Rick Dalton in the same universe. Never thought that would happen.
Yeah.
But here we are.
I wonder if they've ever met.
That would have been the interview to conduct.
We need to get it. Surely he's going to write that into his universe.
Did you ever see the actor studio excerpt where it was like Bradley Cooper was the young unknown actor in the audience talking to, like, De Niro? How awesome would that be if you had young Leonardo DiCaprio in that? Replicate that scene. Young Leo asking Rick Dalton questions on acting. That's Okay, we're going to tag him in that one. That's what we want to see.
Do it.
All right, dude. Part 2 is dropping next week. Is there any, you want to take a quick break or?
All right.
Cool. We'll BRB.
Today, the United States is engaged in a gigantic effort to send men to the moon. For this effort, Pillsbury has developed many special foods. Here is the first one to be made available to the public: Space Food Sticks. To meet the demands of a long space flight, Space Food Sticks had to be a compact, nutritious, high-energy food. That's why they make the perfect between-meal energy snack. Energy for hard play. Energy for hard work. Lasting energy to feel alive. If that sounds better than some of the things your family fills up on between meals, you should try Space Food Sticks for good nutrition and lasting energy in a chewy, tasty snack food. Chocolate, caramel, and peanut butter. About 44 calories. At your grocer's next to the instant breakfast section. Space Food Sticks, the energy snack from U.S. Aerospace Research and Pillsbury.
It's landed. Ideal's new Astro Base has just landed. Look, the space lock is opening. And here comes the astronaut. He's being lowered from the Astro Base into the remote control scout car. The 2 space probes are being mounted for launching. The car is scanning the area. And there go the space probes. They're calling them back to the Astro Base. Mission accomplished. Ideal's Astro Base and Colonel Macaulay's space helmet are the greatest way to play outer space. You can scan the skies, launch deep space probes, fire rockets, destroy stray meteorites. Ideal's Astro Base is at your favorite toy store. Get your Ideal Astro Base today.
Eldon's new Billy Blastoff. Now he walks.
That's Billy's jet.
The jetpack on Billy's back powers his lunar crawler, runs the space mobile, drives the moon tractor, and makes Billy Blastoff walk. Eldon's Billy Blastoff Space Scout comes with 8 pieces.
There's 8 pieces.
Billy Blastoff. Now he walks.
Now, for every kid who has ever seen a science fiction movie, thrilled to the amazing strength of an out-of-this-world movie monster, comes Great Garloo by Marx. Garloo the Mighty. Garloo the Untamed. Garloo the Terrible. Who can stop him? Who can control this monstrous creature? You can, kids, because Great Garloo by Marx is yours to command. With these battery-operated controls, you can make Garloo go, stop, bend, pick up, turn. Yes, Great Garloo, almost 2 feet tall, will be your faithful servant. You name it, you're the boss. Bring out-of-this-world excitement into your house, kids. Own the most fantastic toy of all. Great Garloo by Marx.
M-A-R-X spells Marx, world's largest toy maker.
Ideal's Robot Commando is here to help you. He's your one-man army. No enemy can destroy him. He fights off tanks, hurls missiles one after another. Even a squadron of planes can't stop him. Robot Commando fires his secret weapon. He takes orders from no one except you.
Forward!
Ideal's Robot Commando is battery-operated to obey your command. Adjust the control, speak into the microphone.
Left! Fire!
Ideal's Robot Commando is here to help you. Look for your Robot Commando. He's looking for you.
The Zeroids are here. From the planet Zero, the Zeroids. Zirak, the Zeroid commander, frees himself from his own Zeroid capsule. Advance! Zobor, the Zeroid transporter. Change his Zeroid capsule into a Cosmobile for hauling. Zintar, the Zeroid explorer. Change his Zeroid capsule into a lunar sled. Command the Zeroids to defend. Move forward, backward, and transport. Command the Zeroids from Ideal.
That's the one I was thinking about.
And it has a girl with a gun, but it looks like a hair curler.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I've never heard of it, so it's hard for me to... I don't know. I mean, I trust the dude. We're talking about Weird Wednesday right now, folks. I trust the dude, Joe Zambia. I mean, like his programming, if it's him.
Yeah.
But I've never heard of that one at all.
Have you ever seen Joe Zambia and the Hare Krishna zombie from Dawn of the Dead in the same room?
I haven't.
Yep. It's not a coincidence.
He could put that on his resume like Tarantino did, where he put it on his resume that he was in Dawn of the Dead. And he was trying to be an actor.
The only thing that we ever saw that's leaked from Quentin Tarantino was the Golden Girls, right? When he played Elvis.
Yeah.
That was like front and center.
That was like his big payday.
Yeah, you saw that a lot.
He was going to do Reservoir Dogs just off of that money.
See, that's why they're on strike. They need that sweet money. All right, we thirsty? Let's go revisit an old friend that we call Weird Beer. Yeah.
We haven't done this one in a while.
Yeah, we haven't done this in a while. I feel like now Cousin Primo was an early adopter because we're going to be revisiting one that I think we can get in stores now, but I feel like we got it when it was like straight out of the lab.
It says it right here. I mean, I'm not as a shoot. I don't know if you want to show it, but like the close-up cam is out of order. It says lab on it. You see where it says lab on it?
Oh yeah.
And it says Smooj Lab. This is a trial batch released for your input to explore new flavors. I don't know if this exists. It's prickly pear Smooj. Here we go. From the camera.
Prickly pear.
Let me look it up. You
colada.
show it to the folks. Sorry, we don't have a close-up cam today. You got to hold it close to you, not further out than you. Yeah.
There we go. Smoojy Bouges.
Smooj.
Right.
Prickly pear?
From the lab. Prickly pear pina colada.
I mean, there's plenty of Smooj flavors. Oh, yeah. It's available now.
It is?
Oh, yeah.
But this was still one of the early batches.
This is one of the original batch.
Let's crack it open.
All right.
Let's try it. Okay.
Oh, man, it's pink.
Oh, man. That is super pink.
Wait, are you supposed to shake this? I don't know. Hard seltzer. Oh, man.
I don't think so, dude.
All right.
But that's thick. I mean, that's like sherbet.
Legit. Now, this is fruit, so you're getting sustenance out of it.
Yeah, we're getting nutrients. All right. Cheers.
Oh, that's great.
Oh,
I would love to sneak these into the movies and drink them.
These are freaking delicious.
That's great, right?
Oh, man, that's phenomenal.
I wonder, what is the the health statistics on this?
Well, is this
just like a fruit shake with alcohol?
It's gonna make your soul glow. That's all I know.
I could use that.
Yeah, because this is delicious. Wow, it has thickness, and you feel like you're about to get pulp, but you don't taste any pulp. It's got head, but it's not insulting head.
I mean, I would like to.
Head.
This is the kind of drink you want to have when you've been drinking all day. And it's like, I'm kind of hungry. It's like, should I have a slice of pizza or a Smooj? No, go with the healthier option, fruit and hard seltzer. Like, I mean, I want to have these in a cooler with other options,
Oh my God, yeah. It's definitely, and it's brunch. It worked for brunch as well. You clearly, can you imagine if you had a side of salty bacon to go with this?
Yeah.
Right now, or a cinnamon roll?
Yeah.
Wow. Well done. Primo never steers us wrong.
Yeah. That's a Primo classic. He hasn't been able to call in. I don't know where he moved. Somewhere they don't have signal.
I just imagine him living in some lush greenery with all these bubbling beakers around him. He's cooking up some batches because he brews his own too, right? And I know does he brew his own, or is he just like a hardcore trader?
He's just a trader. Brewing your own, that's a whole other industry. But shout out to Smooj. These are great. You can get these anywhere. Prickly Pear, I guess, is available now.
I love the. You get the pear, but as it sits there, you feel the pina colada.
These are expensive, by the way.
You can charge a lot, and rightfully so.
These are, oh my God, Primo. You know how much you think a 12-pack of these is?
$20.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't buy beer often.
It's not?
No, these are $60.
60?
$60.
$60?
$60 for a 12-pack of these.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd pay it.
Shout out to Primo. So if you got these in a public event, they're going to be $15.
Wow. That was really good. I've seen these in the store, but I've not seen this specific one.
Yeah.
So it's actually listed as a hard seltzer smoothie.
Hard seltzer smoothie, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know, maybe you can grind up some kale in there and say that you're doing it healthy. Healthy drinking. So, cheers to healthy drinking. That last pour was a big head. Speaking of head, big head. Now, I'm not going to talk about Silicon Valley. I'm talking about Day of the Dead. We went to, this was GeorgeRomero month. Next week is the last one, correct?
I believe it's the last one. Yeah.
It's been Romero month, so it was Night of the Living Dead. The film that we can't speak of.
Right.
Day of the Dead. Did you go last night for Land of the Dead?
I didn't go to Land of the Dead. Didn't do it.
Land of the Dead, and they're not going with Diary of the Dead. They're going with Night of the Living Dead remake.
Directed by Tom Savini.
So super excited about that for next week. But going back, Day of the Dead, you had the same memory of Day of the Dead that I did. And I think it's just Dawn of the Dead was way more memorable.
Yeah.
I remember Day of the Dead as a completely different film than the film that we watched last week.
Well, the way the intro guy described it, I forget his name. It wasn't Joe Zambia. The way he described it is exactly how I felt. I remember watching Day of the Dead after Dawn. It's like, oh yeah, more Dawn of the Dead. And it's not that at all.
No.
It's more akin, and I was telling you this when we walked out, it almost feels like that's a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. And Dawn of the Dead is just its own thing, exists somewhere else.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
And maybe the sequel to Dawn of the Dead is Land of the Dead, which feels more akin to that. So maybe it's two separate timelines.
It was at a time when sequels were still popular as far as making money, but they were still a dirty word. And so what you would do is you'd make it as a different film as a sequel, but he does the strategy, which I believe you book a variant of the actor that did really successful in the film that you're making a sequel of.
Right.
And then it feels like a sequel. It's like a spiritual sequel.
Right.
And didn't you have a 1-to-1 comparison with some of the actors?
Well, you've got Dwayne Jones in the first one that connects directly to Ken Foree.
Yep.
And then you've got, I forgot the name of the actress from Dawn of the Dead, but that connects directly to the actress from Day of the Dead, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like in Dawn of the Dead, her arc is to become empowered, right? She's like, I don't want to be just the pregnant lady. I want to be part of the team. And she becomes empowered. And then in Day of the Dead, it's like the continuation of sort of her storyline. Now she's the empowered woman, but it's like the military trying to shut her down.
Right.
But yeah, it's they connect, and you've got a Flyboy in Dawn, you got a Flyboy in Day.
Flyboys versus zombies, man.
Yeah. But it's the thing about Day of the Dead is, like I've told you this before, Dawn of the Dead I don't think is a horror movie. It's like an adventure movie. Yeah. It's like an action adventure, surviving in the zombie apocalypse, and there's fighting and shooting and you know what I mean, trucks and bikers. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is a big, exciting movie, and then like the premise of taking over a shopping mall is it's just huge in scope.
Yeah.
And then for this one, we're just stuck underground. You know what I mean? And it wasn't supposed to be like that, right? There was a whole other script where it's like, that opening scene where they're out in the world. There was way more scenes of that, but they had to cut them because they didn't have the budget. And Romero was just like, well, okay, fine, I don't care. I'm going to do the parts I like. And it's all this underground. And it's got a lot to say, but it's just coming behind Dawn of the Dead. It's disappointing. It feels disappointing. But, like I said, that was the most enjoyable viewing I've ever had of it.
Yeah. Like, I remember more military
Yeah.
watching it when I was younger.
Yeah.
And there was way less military. I didn't realize the military was pretty much down to the nitty gritty. There was
Yeah.
only a few guys left that were in there. That was a cool memory. Obviously, I think the biggest memory of like scenes in the movie, you remember the hands coming through the wall. I don't remember that just being an early part of the dream sequence. I remember that as when the zombies took over the underground bunker. So
Yeah.
I think my memory played tricks with me. I do remember the cauterizing of the arm.
Yeah.
That one really stuck with me because, I mean, that when you're little, I mean, they did a chop and then they did a saw and then they got fire. So, I mean, all three were wincing enough. I don't remember the guy having the Jamaican accent. I don't remember that at all. And yeah, I mean, but for the most part, and then young Greg Nicotero. I mean, that was cool too.
Cameo by young Greg Nicotero.
Yeah, that he made it in there, but
A very Tarantino-esque cameo.
yes, for sure. But yeah, I'm with you. That was the most enjoyable that I've felt in Day of the Dead. I really did enjoy that. And I think maybe because enough time has passed, because if you think about it, Dawn of the Dead was so impactful on most film fans like us. Don't you wonder, like, to me, it's just like, they just flew away, right? Peter and what was his name in Dawn of the Dead? They just fly away.
I remember, yeah.
They're just gone.
Yeah.
Like, what happens?
Right.
Like, you wanted to know what continued the story, for better or for worse.
And it connects chopper to chopper.
It does.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I
That's
think
the
threw
spiritual
people off.
connection,
The helicopter was coming back.
Yeah. By that point, people were savvy to sequels. So it's like, wait, is this a sequel or is this a continuation or what's going on?
Yeah.
And Romero was like, I don't care. You just watch. Romero was the best. I saw him a couple times out like an early Fantastic Fest, like Fantastic Fest 2. When it was very small scale. He was standing out in front of the old Alamo, smoking Marlboro Reds, just old as hell with a ponytail. And he was wearing his vest and he had his glasses gimmick and everything. Smoking Marlboro Reds, man. The guy was probably 75. Like he just did not care.
No.
And he was just at that point, Fantastic Fest was not super crowded. And he was just chatting with folks in front of the movie theater, you know?
And if you listen to Greg Nicotero's story about George Romero, that doesn't surprise you, right? Like, he's like, yeah, come visit the set whenever you want. And then he pretty much, I'll give you a job. Just come here. Forget about medical school. Like, he was just pulling people off the street.
Can you imagine? He created Greg Nicotero.
Yeah, 100%. That's very cool. So I'm not surprised. Like, I feel like he would be the guy that would recruit you in front of a movie theater.
Yeah.
You like having movies? Well, show up on the set tomorrow. I'll give you a job.
I'll give you a job.
That's old school.
You're the sound man now. I like watching in his movies. He still credits as sound man.
Sound man.
Yeah. Sound man and boom man.
Boom man.
But yeah, Day of the Dead is it's just a very cerebral follow-up to Dawn of the Dead. Because Dawn of the Dead, it's like it was just such an action epic. Night of the Living Dead is the same kind of cerebral horror. And I feel Night of the Living Dead connects to Day of the Dead better than Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, I would
But
totally
I think maybe
agree
we
with
need
that.
to split them up. So whenever we have the screening space, you play Night of the Living Dead followed by Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead followed by Land of the Dead.
Is this an opportunity for a Mario Machete cut?
I mean, I feel like that's it, but there's not that many films.
But there's enough.
Because honestly, after Land of the Dead, you can skip those others. That's like that's the whole thing. Like Tarantino says, he wants to quit before his movies get bad. You know, they're not horrible, but they're not memorable.
So you're referring to Diary of the Dead and Survival of the Dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I can see that. I guess because Night of the Living Dead was really groundbreaking. Like no one saw anything like it before, you know. And I just remember
It made people sick, man.
Yeah.
Have you ever
was a-
seen Roger Ebert's first review of it?
Oh yes, I do remember that.
Like he said, it was pornography. It made people sick.
That ending was pretty triggering. I mean, to this day, like it was the premiere of last season's Joe Bob, and they played it.
Yeah.
It was really triggering. Like
Yeah.
as far as you get somebody that's a lead, you know, a Black American is in a lead, which is very forward thinking for 1969, and then that ending was just like, whoa.
And you know, Romero says he had no intention of making any political statement.
No,
there,
yeah,
but
he did, right? He said, "I."
he
just took
says
the
that,
best
but I
actor.
mean, I feel like, you know, that's a wink, wink moment.
Yeah,
'Cause I had no intention of making a statement. Wink. Because it's executed so well.
oh yeah,
It's hard to make it. It's hard to believe it's by accident because you know, it's a no sell. Movies back then didn't have black leads, right? Slapping the white co-actress in the face.
oh yeah, that's right.
And then when you get to the ending, this is the brilliant part that you know it's got to be planned. When you get to the ending, it just becomes photos.
Yeah.
And the whole story is just lost to photos, and it's just photos in a newspaper, right? This is the story the story you saw never gets reported. It's just these photos. It's just this.
Yeah,
So, I don't know. Romero was awesome, man.
it felt like, and that made it really feel like horror. Like you walked out stunned. I'm sure I didn't think. I mean, it was a VHS viewing for me, but like stunned silence for sure. with
Well, at that point,
ending.
nobody had seen movies where people just eating each other, eating other people. And like his whole gimmick, I mean, he had a naked zombie in there.
Yeah, that's right.
It was the late 60s. You don't just throw nudity in a movie at random,
no.
you know?
No. So I don't know. Like, did he kind of like Wes Craven always talked about? He didn't want to be in horror. Did George Romero have any story like that where it's not, or he was okay with like his lot in life with his career?
I mean, he expanded out of it a little bit. I'm not sure.
I don't know if he was okay with it. It sounds like he was okay, and I know the genre is better off for it that he was okay with it.
Well, like to me, like I said, I've always said to me, George Romero is the corporate video hero because that's where he came from. He came from corporate video. He was making ads for dentists, you know.
Yeah.
He was making ads for local businesses and you know computer companies, and that's what he was doing. And he built a production company doing that, right? Just because he was into film and that's what he was interested in. And then his first break was doing Mr. Rogers. He did like Mr. Rogers Goes to the Dentist or something. One of those early Mr. Rogers.
Yes. When he'd do those little side gimmicks, and then they would actually show
Yeah,
it.
he'd leave Imagination Station and like ghost places. So he directed one of those, and that was his big break. He did a Mr. Rogers, and then I think he also did an ad of like a bigger ad for something. He was building a career as a corporate video guy.
Can you imagine getting your hands on that picture with Fred Rogers and George Romero? That's big money.
It's out there.
It is?
Yeah, it was a Mr. Rogers segment.
Man, it's just like that should be.
It was like Mr. Rogers Goes to the Dentist. I think that's the one.
We just hang it in the studio. It would just be so good. But so yeah, 1968 was Night of the Living Dead, and then 71 he had There's Always Vanilla. Season of the Witch and the Crazies were 1973, and then what we saw of the amusement park, that Lost film. Martin, was that the same Martin that I'm thinking of with Ernest Borgnine?
That's a vampire movie.
Oh, that's a vampire movie. Yeah, Martin, there he is. And then Dawn of the Dead, Night Riders, Creepshow, Day of the Dead. You know, growing up, I had no idea. It was only like a couple of years ago that I didn't know that George Romero did Monkey Shines and Experiment in Fear. I had no idea that was a George Romero.
That movie was dope.
Yeah, I loved it. I just had no idea it was a George Romero movie until like a couple of years ago.
Right. Yeah.
But it was one that really stuck in your head. But yeah, that was his last run, although
The Creepshow.
Creepshow, yeah.
Didn't he do the Dark Half? Dark Half was really good.
Yep. Night Riders, Creepshow, Day of the Dead, Creepshow, Monkey Shines. Yeah, the Dark Half was 1993.
Dark Half is great.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a great filmography. And then he finished with Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, Survival of the Dead, and then Crazies, he was executive producer.
Probably so.
Down there, yeah. That remake of that. So, I was, again, it felt like it was the right time. You know, it felt like 80s. It was 85 Day of the Dead. For some reason, I thought it was like 89. But you know what I think Day of the Dead suffered from around that same time?
What's that?
Comparing it to Night of the Living Dead. Because we came off... No, I'm sorry. Comparing it to Return of the Living Dead. Not Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, because it came out a year after, right?
Yeah. So I think...
Was it the year after or the same year?
Same year. Yeah, they were both 85.
Yeah.
So you went from Dawn of the Dead, which, again, action-adventure, but it had a fun vibe to it. For lack of, for better or for worse,
action and adventures are both fun.
Yeah. So... To go from Day of the Dead, which you said, which is a little bit of a downer, just because they were
huge
underground.
Downer. It's like a very much just a dark vision.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. I mean, they even had bats in these caves. There wasn't a lot of daylight coming in. It was just straight up bats.
Yeah.
So, but to compare that to Return of the Living Dead in the same year.
Which is the funnest movie of all time.
Yeah.
Is there a funner horror movie than Return of the Living Dead?
I don't think so.
You've got... Liana Quigley, you've got Punks, Rocky Erickson, Clue Gulager, Thom Matthews, you got the Yellow Man, you got the Tar Man.
Yes,
you got Send More Paramedics.
Oh my God.
There's nothing quotable in Day of the Dead except if you just want to be a heel and quote Rhodes. He just F-bombs every single word.
Exactly. So I think,
I want to know what's going on this monkey farm. Oh, yeah. It's just, it's like, it's not even a contest.
Yeah. The only fun part of Day of the Dead was Bub's salute that he was in
huge
the military,
pop,
right?
Huge,
big part.
Thank you, Alamo audience, for
appreciating that.
For appreciating that, yeah,
that was really good. But at the time, it made it really tough, I think, to compete.
Well, it's such a straightforward. After let's take over a mall and fight bikers. It's like let's live underground and let's have the scientists versus the military. It's just it's if you think about that premise, it's huge in scope. But they just can't really... It's not executed in that scope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is the last bastion of humanity, and you've got the scientists trying to figure out how to do a cure, and the military's crumbling, and they want to still be in charge,
Yeah.
And then you've got this other faction over here of people who they're just here for a paycheck, and they're trying to do their own thing. They don't want to be involved in either.
Yeah, and I felt like that they suffered a little bit from that as well as like a lot of the soldiers, Greg Nicotero kind of included, that they were not, there was none that were very memorable. They were very interchangeable. Where you think about when like The Walking Dead, that survived as long as it did because there really weren't any like the throwaway characters like that you need to empathize. And you just said it, like in Return of the Living Dead. Every one of those characters was great. Even if you didn't know their name, just everybody had a gimmick. It was like ECW. There was no wasted meat in that movie.
You had the mod, you had trash and suicide.
So much of it.
You had the friend with the Jerry curl, and then you had the nice girl.
Yes, that was hanging out with all of them.
With Thom Matthews.
And then the spokesman for Pathmark grocery stores in Long Island.
Right.
So burn the flames.
Yeah.
But I think, that being said, I think that's why it suffered at the time. Fast forward to now, I think it is one of those movies like Quentin Tarantino talked about. I didn't like it at the time, but I like it now.
Here's my machete cut. If you're going to watch the Dead movies, then start with Night of the Living Dead. Definitely. It's a classic. You need to see it. But go ahead and after that's over, go ahead and jump over to Day of the Dead. because I think that you want to skip Day of the Dead because you want to skip Dawn of the Dead at first. Jump straight to Day of the Dead so you can get Day of the Dead into your system, absorb it, and I think that and Night of the Living Dead made a great back-to-back, right? Once you're done with that, toss those tapes away. It's almost like a reset. You're going to jump into Dawn of the Living Dead. Dawn of the Living Dead? No, just Dawn of the Dead. Because this is happening in a completely different portion of the country than night or day. It's dawn. You watch Dawn of the Dead, which is just a great adventure, right?
Yep.
Just surviving and taking over the mall don't you remember having dreams about that back in the 80s?
Yeah, that's all you dreamed about.
Getting locked in the mall and it's just take it over?
Hiding in the store, like, let's just hide.
Yeah.
And then they'll forget, and then we'll just walk around.
And we'll just walk around. We'll have access to everything. We got the Foot Locker. We got the Sam Goody. Anyway, go into Dawn of the Dead. Enjoy it. Watch whatever cut. Watch the Italian cut. Watch the theatrical cut. But after that, then go to Land of the Dead. Because I think those two kind of go together. Those two go together.
Got it.
And I just think the other two you should just skip. I'm going to be honest.
Survival of the Dead.
I think Survival of the Dead's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
And
it's way better than Diary of the Dead.
Diary of the Dead's
But I think you've got two. I think you don't have a Romero quadrology. You've got two double features.
All right. I like it.
You got the Romero double feature.
I like it. That's how it's going to be booked.
There you go.
Romero double feature. Nice.
That's it.
Well done. I was trying not to cut you off because it's going good. But I think you're right. I think like pairing the food and wine, I think you paired these films together correctly because I was late. I was late to the party with Land of the Dead.
Yeah.
But it did have that feel.
Yeah, it kind of came out after Walking Dead got over and they were like, oh, let's give Romero some money. It is really good. It's really good. I think that one, I love Dennis Hopper and Leguizamo in it.
Yeah.
I love Romero's writing. It's so basic, Yeah. There's something beautiful about that. Let's just it's very simple. Like when he's got the buddy with the bad eye and the guy he shoots somebody and he's like, hey, nice shooting. And he's like, it's not nice shooting, it's good shooting. There's no such thing as nice shooting.
Yeah, that was good. I did really enjoy that.
And I just think it's a good capper, And it feels a lot like Dawn of the Dead, where, we don't know where this is going at the end. They take off in the tank bus.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The survival tank bus, and they just take off into the wild. It's like, well, we're going to see where we go.
Yeah, and then we never find out again. I think it harkened
the Romero double feature. That's that's going to work.
I think that's money. I think you could sell that. I like the idea of it reminded you of these other fun sequels that you didn't expect to be fun that were good, which were. It reminded me of Gremlins 2, the new batch, because of the building, and it reminded me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 only because Dennis Hopper was in that too.
Well, it also has got the spiritual connect because you've got Bub connects to Bubba. Is his name Bubba?
Bubba.
Yeah. Bub connects to Bubba.
It does, yeah.
It's the evolution of Bub.
Because again, that was another thing that I felt like they just kind of let fall off. That like, oh, the dead, they're a little smart. They're trying to figure out what's going on. They're learning language. They're trying to figure things out. And then it just kind of, they never went anywhere with it. And then you're like, watch Land of the Dead. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. They really started digging deep in that.
I like Bubba.
It would have been a really cool closer for him to have just like a final dead. That would have been really cool.
This is okay. Like let's talk about this real quick because I think there's Romero, there's Walking Dead, there's lots of zombies. How do you close off the zombie universe? What's the end to the zombie universe?
Well, the Robert Kirkman came out, right, and he kind of hinted that the cause of it was space spore, right? They kind of unofficially. So I think it has to be a space cure. But how do you close, like you said, how do you close that off? The cure just makes them just stop being animated.
How do you get it? Do you have to go to space to get it?
Yeah, I don't know.
We have to relearn space. We have Rick and Negan are going to fly a rocket.
I don't know, but did you watch the trailer for, they were calling it Island of the Dead, And then I think they changed it to City of the Dead because they're in Manhattan with Negan and Maggie. They're going to Manhattan.
I haven't seen that, but isn't there also a Daryl Dixon show?
Yeah, he's going to end up in France somehow. So there's going to be a second spin. So I guess there's going to be a Boat of the Dead or a Cruise of the Dead. Somehow he's going to make it over.
I mean, I think it's still viable. I think
so
people
too,
love zombie apocalypse. People see themselves in it. Have I ever showed you that one short where it's the kids working at Ace Hardware and they're just talking about what they would do if the zombie apocalypse happened?
No.
Have you never seen that one? It's just these kids at Ace Hardware working their day jobs. I think they just film them while they're at work. And it's like, first thing we're going to do, we're going to come here. We're going to get all these hatchets. We're going to get all the coolers and make sure. And we're going to store all this food. We're going to run across to the Quickie Mart. We're going to get all the hot dogs out of there. And they're just planning it all out.
I have not seen that.
I'll send it to you after this.
That sounds awesome. I love that. That's the plans that are going on.
Yeah.
No, I think why that's going to work. I think City of the Dead. I mean, I'm going to watch City of the Dead. Because it reminds me a lot of Escape from New York. You're getting that vibe. It feels like Escape from New York. So
sounds big budget. Hopefully they can finance
it is. And the same thing with Daryl. What they did is the reason after Rick left, and they created real stakes, so they had to kill off a lot of their popular characters. So now they're taking the characters that retain their popularity and just putting them in their own. I think it's going to work.
Yeah.
They're shrinking the world, so you don't have to have a group anymore. I think they need to get away from groups. They're
definitely doing that. They've been doing groups for 10 years.
Yeah, they got to get rid of groups. It hit me in the last Jurassic World. Like, there was literally, I was like, that's a whole herd of people running. Like, because they needed to have these giant groups. No, I want to see Negan and Maggie. I want to see Daryl. If he's going to be by himself, that's fine. I want to see Rick and Michonne. Like, I just like those small characters that you still have a connect. So I think we're going to get a resurgence of The Walking Dead. I think people are going to be because a lot of people just gave up on it. And I gave up in the sense where just like I kind of glazed through the last season, but I did watch the final episode.
Yeah.
Just being the completist, but
it just didn't change enough to hold your interest.
No, exactly. But to circle back, it would have been nice if somehow, I think a good final Dead would have been somehow if they connected these universes, and it would have been a nice nod to Romero if he was a part of it, but obviously he can't be a part of it. But I would have liked that, somehow tying that together more than I would have Space Spore. And just like in a throwaway line, Space Spore. Somehow you come across like an older Ken Voorhees, maybe we do run into, they landed and they kind of give you the story. I feel like that would have gave them so much cultural cred if they would have just tied it to the homage. But I don't know. I mean, that could be wishful thinking. They may not have the rights to do that.
Yeah.
But it would have just been really cool to find a way to let Romero close off his story. Because I used to, when you're younger, okay, there's night. How come they didn't do a dusk? Then they got dawn, and then they got day. So I figured there was only going to be 4, but then they kind of went in a different direction. But I would have liked him to see him close that off. But Day of the Dead, though, way better than expected. Would we feel that way if we weren't seeing it in a theater, which makes everything a little bit better?
On a 35 millimeter print, I just think a movie never looks better. Well, I mean, a movie from that era.
Yeah.
Seeing on a print and it looks the way it was supposed to look when it came out.
Yeah.
You're seeing because again, I've said this 100 times, but it just, sometimes on those Blu-rays, it's so sharp.
Oh,
it
yeah.
It breaks the illusion.
I didn't realize the sign. I mean, you went to film school, but there is something to that. When something looks too clear, it almost can take you out of the moment.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? Like, what is that? Like, our brain recognizes something that it looks too clear?
It's just so sharp.
Yeah.
It's so sharp. You know what I mean? Film is a chemical process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no ones and zeros there. It's not digital in any way, shape, or form. It's chemicals reacting to light to make images.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's just different. I mean, that's just the science.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's why Tarantino's like, a movie is a illusion. It's you're projecting a bunch of still images 24 frames a second and creating the illusion of motion. It's a magic trick. Digital is just digital. Just filmed it on my phone and shot it at your face. Shoot a video from my phone to your phone. And it just looks like what it looks like.
Yeah.
Like even like with, bigger films, the way they do stuff now, it's like everything is just like, you can do so much in post now with color correction and, aperture correction. It's just, you have all this control.
Yeah.
Of this digital image, where it's like back in the day, you'd shoot film, it had to be lit the way you wanted it to look in the moment.
Yeah.
Oh,
and you're right. I mean, there was a couple of those scenes that were, that got so dark, and you can tell.
That's all you could do?
That's all you can do. There was nothing you can do.
Like this cave. It's not possible.
Oh, awesome. So we're going to take one more quick break, and we'll do a go home. We got to talk about family. We've got to talk about Fast X. With spoilers. BRB.
BRB. Hold on one second. Where's the thing?
Boy, I'm bored.
Don't be bored. Join the party. Call 1-976-8888. There's a great time waiting for you right now. Meet new friends or just listen in. Everybody's doing it. So call 1-976-8888.
Where was that party?
So, what are you waiting for? Don't be left out on all the fun. Call right now, 1-976-8888. 88 cents per minute billed to your phone. Brought to you by Omegaphone.
Just like you, I was really skeptical about which one of the party lines is really the best. It's 1-976-BEST. It's easier than going to some singles bar. The phone's right there within your reach. And it's a real kick because you get started talking with everyone on the line right away. I got together with this guy I met on the best party line, and I'll tell you, it's fun, exciting, and the best way for you to meet someone new. The best party line. It's just a phone call away.
Do you sometimes sit alone, wishing for the perfect fantasy? Has love passed you by? Do you dream of encounters with a perfect mate? Or spending precious moments getting close to someone you could really love? For just 99 cents per minute, indulge your fantasy. It's live. Call 1-976-DATE now.
We had this is the perfect go home spot. We had to go see it. Did we see every Fast movie that comes to the theater, right?
I suppose. Every time the Fast movies come out, though, it's like I don't really have a lot of motivation to see it. You know, I'm not gunning to go see it, get the first show and see it. It's almost just like I'll just wait, but eventually I'll get there.
I don't know how well these play at home. I don't really remember watching them at home, but I know they play like a movie when you're in the theaters.
They definitely play like a movie.
Yeah.
And we know that Vin Diesel goes to the movies.
The movies.
Yeah. He's way into it. What did you think of Fast X?
I enjoyed it. I liked it as much as any of the other ones. I mean, there's no different. What I liked about this one is they took notes from Marvel, right? Since this is the Fastiverse or Viniverse, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of big
Treadoverse.
There's a lot of big groups, and I like that they split them up similar to like they did in Infinity War. Like it was easier to track the stories. It's very much
you can tell Vin watches Marvel movies.
Yeah.
The opening scene is Avengers Endgame.
It is. Yeah.
So
100%.
he endgames himself and Momoa into the old movies.
Yeah.
So he definitely pays attention to that. And then, like you said, the plot kind of plays out like Infinity War.
Yeah.
I think he's very much feels like a superhero movie.
Oh,
they've become superhero movies, and I think maybe Dom is either Captain America or Batman. And in this one, Jason Momoa is the Joker.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He definitely acted like that for sure. He went in a different direction. Do we want to throw spoilers? We can throw spoilers up just because we want to use this thing.
Took me like 20 minutes to make this.
So I do want to talk a little bit about that, to dig into Jason Momoa's performance. I told you it was something that I was really curious to get your take on, and then I did a lot of reading about it afterwards, and it turns out it was supposed to be like B-roll, and they decided to go with it because they're like, wow, it really shows how...
Say that again, what?
Yeah, that a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about with, Jason Momoa, when he had the corpses and he was painting their toenails and stuff, it was supposed to just be B-roll that they were going to just put on a DVD. And then one of the producers like, no, this is good. It really shows how unhinged they are.
Yeah.
How unhinged Dante is.
I can see that.
So
I can see that.
Did you expect it to be like, I felt when you first were introduced to Dante in that first scene, and then the second part with when he took over the Rome heist, felt different than the character we see later on throughout the film. To me, he just felt a little different, where he was really like, then he started wearing like the man buns and the ponytails, and he really started getting jokery, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
where
well, maybe they picked and choose from the alternate takes, right?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that theory that they used B-roll, but it makes sense to me because Jason Momoa is very comfortable in that character.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel forced. It feels like it's just coming from him, like it's his sense of humor coming out.
Yeah.
And a couple of lines feel unscripted. Like one that caught my eye in particular was when Cena dies. And Jason Momoa is just like, that was very admirable. He tells the kid, and it was just like, that's funny.
Yeah.
That felt like it came from a funny place. It wasn't just a piece of dialogue that somebody wrote. Wow, that's cool. I think I enjoyed it more than I thought I was gonna, which is pretty much my reaction to every Fast and the Furious movie.
Exactly.
It's
right.
like I was like, I come in with pretty low expectations, and then it's better than I expected. And I'm just like, damn you, Fast X. This was all right, I guess. I think that I had a few thoughts though about this movie. I thought it was. I feel like Vin Diesel is enjoying this more than anybody.
Oh yeah.
He's definitely having the best time on this movie, and I feel like Vin Diesel has kind of become the Michael Scott of the Fast and Furious universe.
Yeah.
And this is like his threat level midnight. And he's got all his friends that they really, I mean, they're not booking other jobs. It's like all they can do is Fast and Furious movies, and like Vin is at the top of that food chain. And it's just like, hey, we're coming back for another one of these. And he's driving the bus, and they're all in the movie.
Yep.
They're all in the movie, you know?
Yeah. No, that's a really good way to put it.
And I think that I thought it was kind of, they did some interesting things. I like the part where Jack Reacher, who ends up in the movie, is explaining to Brie Larson how ridiculous the rest of the Fast and the Furious movies are. When they're in that green screen room and they got all those monitors, and it's like, in part 5, they drove this safe out of a Brazilian jail down the street. It's like preposterous. We should have stopped it then.
Defying gravity and God.
We let them keep going.
It does feel like, and what you're saying there, part 5 was that North Star of when they turned into what they're turned into now, what you're talking about, right? Yeah. That was the lot, because I thought 4 felt like it was going back to what they were trying to do with 1, and then 5 said, "Now screw it, we're going to go in this direction."
I thought that it was an interesting meta moment in this one where they call out how preposterous the rest of the movies are.
Yeah.
I was getting the feeling in this movie, I feel like it's getting awkward because no one has told Dom that Brian's dead. And now it's starting to feel like they're all keeping it a secret from him.
Yeah.
Like he died and they don't want him to know. Because they don't want Dom to suffer.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I walked out thinking this movie, and there's going to be, it's going to be a trilogy now. They have to
I don't think it's going to be a trilogy. But
you don't think?
No, I don't think so.
I think they have to address this. They have to address Brian.
They're going to have to address Brian by him being dead.
Yeah, in the film universe, not in real life, right?
Yeah.
Just, they have to address it. You can't just say, okay, everybody got the plan. Where's Brian? He's hiding. Okay. And then that's it, which is what happens. And they're like, well, this time we'll let Mia get a little bit of action. Then she'll defend her nephew, and then she can go hide with Brian.
Yeah.
They can't do that anymore.
They can't.
Not for the story.
Right. I think they need to address his death, either do an on-camera or a deep fake death, and just move forward with that.
So you think what you're saying is your theory is Brian died in this universe, and they just haven't said.
Well, it's not my theory. I just feel like the movies are making it feel like that's the case.
Yeah,
like they're all trying to keep it from Dom that Brian died.
That's rich, man. That's really rich.
Now I
think that would be good.
If that's one way to go, but I mean now they're already in motion. So I think what you want to do, if I'm going to book it, you're going to have to get sign off from the family and just do an AI Brian death.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Momoa comes in, kills Brian at the beginning of the next movie.
Oh wow, forget it.
Right?
All bets are off.
Yeah. And I say it's not going to be a trilogy because I don't think this one opened as strong as they were anticipating. And I think a trilogy is a bad idea.
I don't like it.
I think it's a bad idea. Just put all, and hopefully now that Rock's back, spoiler.
Oh yeah,
what'd you think of that Rock scene at the end?
I was legit caught by surprise because, again, I guess we shouldn't be surprised. Rock being a professional wrestler, he kayfaded and it worked. Like when it was coming through, and they had the SWAT team coming in with the masks, I thought it was going to be Brian. And I was like, okay, this makes sense because they have to address this. They have to get Brian back in the story, to honor him, I think. So when that came off and it was Rock, I fell for it. I was like, whoa, I had no idea. Because I was already reeling from other spoiler, Gal Gadot coming back, from a sub.
Yeah.
She was in a sub after falling out of a plane. Yeah. So I was already kind of reeling for that. I didn't think that they would do two big surprises like that.
I mean, both looked like they were shot in half a day.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a huge
very quickly.
They could just showed up. It's probably not too long after James Gunn shut them down.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, Vin Diesel's probably like, yo, I'm hiring.
There is the meme of The Rock as Iron Man and Vin as Thanos. You couldn't live with it. So where'd that lead you? Back to me.
Yeah.
But I was genuinely surprised of The Rock's return. Like
yeah,
it worked.
yeah. Well, he announced it on the red carpet, so I caught a spoiler earlier.
Oh, you did?
He announced that Rock was back before the day the movie premiered.
Oh, did it? Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I did not get that spoil.
And then I was just like, when they said another cameo, I was like, who could it be other than Gal Gadot? Is there anybody else that it could even be?
I was kind of expecting Gal Gadot, and the whole nobody dies in this universe. John Cena's probably alive for all we know. I was expecting her, and I think that's cool. We only need to see him one more time. I know they're saying let's bring her back so she can carry an all-female version of Fast and the Furious. I don't know, but I'm fine with everybody coming back for one last run.
Yeah,
So.
I'm not fine with. Man, I'm sorry, but Vin has too tight a grip on the steering wheel of this.
He does.
It's just gotten a bit comedic now. The idea of Dominic Toretto, son of an auto mechanic, who him and his brother both went on to become super spies.
Yeah.
And Dominic is like, what's crazy about Dom is like you watch every movie now, I guess since the last 5, it opens with a barbecue and he's at home working in his garage.
They even made fun of that, didn't he?
Yeah. He's there working in his garage in his Dickies shirt with his name on it. Right?
Yep.
And then they have the barbecue, which is always like hot dogs and corn on the cob. It's like
And Coronas.
hire an art director for your barbecue. People, hot dogs and corn on the cob is mostly what it is. Anyway, it's just kind of ridiculous that, okay, they always get a visit from someone. It's like, Dom, the stuff's happening. We need your help. And the sleeves come off.
Yep.
Loses the sleeves, and now it's time for action. Anytime Dom is wearing sleeves is when he's relaxing. But when it's serious, sleeves off. And he keeps dropping that necklace in every conversation.
Yeah.
It's just like, Dom, we'll never beat this supercomputer AI thing that we're trying to fight. He's like, oh yeah? Necklace. Right? It's like he's got these. I'm saying it's like threat level midnight. The only thing it's missing is Dom doing the theme song. He's just writing these absurd. And the thing is, the action scenes are amazing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that Vin Diesel has perfected the art of car acting. Right. Because when you watch these scenes, which are all CGI, the Dodge Charger jumps over a chopper with a chain on it, flips the chopper over and does a drift and spins it into another chopper. It's like all this stuff, but they insert these shots of Vin driving. He's just like, and it's always the, shifting the gear. It's like we're in fifth gear. Why do they keep shifting? I guess because it's like when you're driving a standard and you go into neutral and you drift, but like it's just there's just so much gear shifting. And then it's just like, I don't know. But I think that Vin has probably coined the whole genre of drive acting.
Yeah, and we had a couple of them in here, right? He had literally the jump and hit the crane and make it spin and hit the bomb like a baseball. I mean,
yeah. What did you think about them turning Cena into a comedy gimmick?
I was a little surprised. I mean, I feel like that's John Cena's real personality, so it kind of surprised me a little. But to me, it was welcome in the sense where I felt like after coming off his performance in the last one where he was like a straight up heel, I thought it was cool. I thought it was good. I wasn't, honestly, I was disappointed, and doesn't mean he's really gone, but that was the only thing I was like, oh, that's a real bummer, because I was just like John Cena as Jacob Toretto, but kind of being funny, because Vin Diesel's never funny. I thought that was going to be good.
Yeah.
And then he did the noble sacrifice and saved it, so I was really surprised about it. But I was okay with his comedy. Yeah. I mean, I feel like John Cena's he's a funny guy. He's a funny guy. It's funny. It's funny.
Yeah, it was fine. It was fine. I think they made the right choice.
Yeah, you think he's dead?
No. Nobody ever dies in these movies.
No.
No, I don't think he's dead at all.
Again, I was a little bit more thrown off again by Jason. I was And that's, again, what you were talking about, expectations. You expected to go in there and you expected Jason Momoa to be like a badass, not like the Joker. So it was funny that he was funny and I didn't expect it, but I expected Cena to be funny. What was I going to say too? I liked the way that they finally confronted, again, the actor who played Hawk and then he played Reacher. He's really good.
He's good. I didn't think they utilized him well in this movie, but he's great.
I like that they also acknowledged that. Like, they're just acknowledging this stuff. Like, oh, well, you'd expect everybody to just, eventually be on your side. And then they kind of went back and was like, no, he's been against you all along.
Right.
I thought that was good because Cypher, Charlize Theron was the only one that you thought was going to be straight always against them heel. And even now she had she was the one that was kind of helping him out.
She'll be at the next barbecue.
Yeah, that's what I mean. She's gonna be
having a hot dog and a corn on the cob.
And a Corona. So RJ has a theory. Check this theory out. RJ's theory is his dad never died, and he's gonna have to race for nuclear codes. We racing for slips? No, we're racing for codes. Dom versus his dad, like straight up. It's not. It's funny, but then when you start to think about it, it's completely possible that
works for me.
A mechanic is actually a spy, and he pretended to his death, and he was against his sons all along somehow. I mean, it's quite possible.
I mean, what are the chances that both sons of an auto mechanic would become super spies separately on opposite sides of a mission?
Yes. It's pretty crazy.
Low. It's low.
Yeah, it's very low. But what kind of spinoffs do you want to see from here? Like, are you?
I don't want any spinoffs.
You don't want it.
I'm good with what we got. I don't think we need any spinoffs or anything. It's fine. Like, just finish it out and call it a day, and I'm good with that.
Because they have, what could they do? Like, besides the female Fast, you got Hobbs and Shaw.
Nah.
You don't
none of that. I don't want any of it.
No Tokyo Drift 2? You don't want him to bring back?
I think just wrap it up.
Bring back Lucas Black?
No, he's been in it.
He did, right? He helped him get the space.
He'll be in the next one. No, I don't want any spin-offs. I don't want any more of these. Just wrap it up. And just like Tarantino's doing, close out the career. And maybe in 10 years you reboot it with Dom's son. But just go ahead and put a pin in this one. Call it a great series. You got 10.5 of them. And that's enough. We've had enough of Fast X. We're good.
How many more would it take before they would turn into Sharknado?
They've surpassed Sharknado. They've already surpassed Sharknado. Sharknado strives to be the Fast X. They're done. It's fine. It's over. I think it's good to wrap it up.
That's awesome. Let's wrap up on that. That was good. But I am glad. I'm 100% with you. No trilogy. Let's just finish it on a sequel.
That's fine. Yeah. And you know what? He's got The Rock and Cena in there. Hopefully someone talks some sense into Dom, Vin, and just be like, even if we call it the last one, you can still do another one.
Yes.
But just like end it.
Yeah.
Book an ending and give us an ending.
That's right. I would like to see an ending, and I would like
And we don't want an ending where it's like there's like cuts to a close up somewhere underneath a building and there's an egg and it cracks. And there's another Dominic Toretto in there. Just end it.
What's in that egg? Family.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. See you next week.